Most everyone pays attention to their paycheck and the amount of tax that comes out of it. Most people probably don't realize what a fine line it is for the government to try and gain the maximum amount of tax revenue without reaching a tipping point where taxpayers will no longer contribute to the economy by working. In 1974, Art Laffer demonstrated this concept by drawing the illustration on a dinner napkin. This illustration is called the Laffer curve. Both Wikipedia and Laffer say that the concept behind this famous curve dates back as early as the 14th century to Arab writings, but Art Laffer was the first we know of to simplify this principle in such an understandable way. To make the concept even easier, let's use some figures from the Laffer Center's website. So the idea is if the government taxes 0%, it will receive 0%, $0 in tax revenue. If it taxes 20%, then it will receive 20% of all earnings as tax revenue. However, here's where math and economics collide. If the government taxes 100% of all earnings, it will receive zero revenue at all. Why? Because no one will work for an after-tax income of $0. This concept was especially important in 1974 because the U.S. economy was in big trouble. According to the U.S. inflation rate calculator, inflation exceeded 12% that year. But let's put that in perspective. The same calculator said that this year in January, our inflation rate was just under 1%. When Art Laffer first drew the curve, he and his three colleagues were discussing what President Ford was proposing for another tax increase to battle inflation. At the time, the highest tax bracket was at 70%. Ford was looking for another 5%. According to Bloomberg Business, Laffer illustrated the curve by grabbing his dinner napkin and drawing the curve in ink. Within a few years, Laffer was given the opportunity to discuss this curve with a new president, President Reagan, who embraced the idea as well as other economic ideas and changes. One of the changes he made was to reduce the taxes from 70% to just 28%. Recently, the Washington Post published an article about the curve saying that some people were calling it voodoo economics. However, the same article pointed out a few facts that seem to support the theory behind Laffer's curve. During the years Reagan was president, 1980 to 1988, Reagan reduced the high tax from 70% to 28%. U.S. News & World Report confirmed that Reagan led the United States into one of the most prosperous periods in U.S. history. Tax revenues went from $517 billion to $909 billion by 1988. The Dow rose from less than 800 points to over 11,000, and the nation's net worth quadrupled from 11 to $44 trillion, while the U.S. produced almost 40 million new jobs. All of that said, it's still just economic theory. Consider your own thoughts on the theory. What would be the line for you? How much would you pay in taxes before you would quit working or scale back? Would you pay 80% in taxes? 85%? The Laffer curve, whether correct or not, illustrates the idea that choosing the right amount without going over is a delicate decision for U.S. lawmakers. Here are my note cards.